Yo, so I don't understand. It's getting ridiculous. I just gotta bring up a certain point here. It's just denial at this point, really. Utter denial. It's utter hypnotism, cult-like thinking. When you have a biology that says that fat is a form of energy metabolism. If the body didn't need it, why would it be there? I mean, when you look around your entire body, everything is made of fat. Your brain is made of fat. Your nerves are made of fat. Every cellular wall structure is made of fat. It's everywhere. Fat has multiple uses. Sugar only has one, to be burned. Why is that? Oh no, I'm sorry, it has two. One to be burned, and the other to be turned into fat. Because fat is denser. It is made for high oxidation, which leads to high energy. Sugar is very light, and it would not be a fuel source in a rich oxygen environment, which allowed the species on this planet to make a huge evolutionary boost, a jump forward. We have this whole thing that, fat makes me sluggish and oil makes me sluggish. Shut the fuck. Come on, man. I'd say like this. When you basically have something that happens in your body, you can't immediately say, I'm just sensing and feeling my body. What you're doing is this. You have something that happens to your body, it feels negative, you make a conclusion based on biased information and not your own research, and then you conclude it's bad. I mean, what if we did that with raw vegan in general? Okay, we do some raw veganism, we just start off fruitarian or whatever form of raw veganism you're doing. And you say, oh, I'm feeling flu-like. People used to have flu-like symptoms when they started with veganism. You know what I'm saying? As they transitioned. They still do. But the person doesn't immediately say, oh, it's the veganism or the raw veganism that's making me sick. When mucus and all types of shit in your body, you might have diarrhea or whatever the hell it is. Because your body's making a transition, it's seizing opportunity. It has to adapt. Now, I'm not saying all things raw that you do is raw is good. I'm saying is that you gotta use personal perception and also decisive research, analytical research to come to a conclusion as to what's happening. Now the thing is that a lot of fruitarians make that claim that, fats make me weak and sluggish. Fats, do you know how many types of fats there are? I mean, there are lots of different types of fats. When you think about the body, everything is made of fat. The cells, look, you got the brain is made of fat, the nerves are made of fat, the cell structures in itself is made of fat. And your body can use a form of fat for metabolism. It has different forms. So when you're eating nuts and seeds, you know what you're eating in terms of fat? See, the thing is, you think sugar is sugar. So you generalize sugar. But there are also different forms of sugars. Like there are different forms of proteins, like there are different forms of fats. And when you're eating like a handful of like nuts and stuff like that for your source of calories, you would say something silly like that. Because there's a thing called omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. I'm pretty sure you don't know what they do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be making that claim. You see, when you eat a whole bunch of like pistachios or eat a whole bunch of almonds and so on and so forth, they have some saturated fats as well as omega-3s and omega-6 ratio. So when you're eating these suckers, what do you think they mostly have? Omega-3s, you already know they have saturated fats, but omega-3s, omega-6s. You even if you knew, would you even care? No, because you don't know what omega-6 even do. That's because you do not relate to nutrients on the electric on a fine level of physics, and I don't blame you, because nobody does. Omega-3s and 6s determine the rate in which electrons move throughout the cell, especially in the mitochondria. See, the mitochondria has these, they're called cell membrane, and within that wall, like within between the walls, electrons move through. And depending on the type of fat determines the resistance that the electrons flow along. Now, if those fats are very dense, very dense, then what happens is that the electrons have a harder time moving through those rigid fats. If they're made of omega-3s, then what happens is that they're very liquidy, more fluid. And so the electrons as a particle has an easier time moving in between those fats. If you're chowing down, all right, on these omega-6s, you cause more resistance. Do you know why they say omega-6s are pro-inflammatory? Well, if you have a very dense particle, a very dense substance that electrons move through, you cause resistance, which causes heat. When you cause heat, you cause inflammation of particles. It's the way your light works and an electric stove works. You have a metal called iron that has very scattered, very unorganized particles. And what happens when the electron starts to move, tries to move through these particles, it bumps into it because of the friction, because of the density. And so it gets very, very hot, and the metal expands. So what you're having here when you eat omega-6 is causing inflammations because it's a poor conductor. You need balance. You need a balance of 3s and 6s. That's why they say omega-3s are very good for brain and nerve function. Why do you think they say that? It's because electricity is able to travel through the brain as signals easier in the presence of omega-3s. So when you say things like eating nuts and stuff like that make me feel kind of drained, you gotta know what you're saying. We weren't designed to chow down on nuts and seeds. The highest form of omega-3s that you'll find are in green leafy vegetables or sea vegetables like algae. And if you want a saturated fat source, which you're looking, that's essentially what you're looking for, the saturated fats and nuts. Don't go for that because you get too much omega-6s. Go for something like avocados or coconut butter, coconut oil. But then you say, okay, it still makes me feel sluggish. That's because you have all the sugar in your body. And your body cannot metabolize both of those things at the same time. It wants one or the other. Make a choice. Alright. Peace. Donate below in the description box. I love y'all. Peace.